G'day folks, how are you?
Great, thank you very much.
Oh, pleased to hear it. I was just reflecting on the momentous change that is removing the treaty requirement from the obligation on state school boards. Taxpayers don't fund education for adult political purposes, they fund it for children's education. And I think it's fair to say that there's enough parents out there who are tired of feeling like their kid's school has become an eternal marae visit. It is possible to respect the Māori language and culture without artificially inserting it into every aspect of life with a karakia before each lesson or Māori words through their entire maths lesson. These things are actually doing more damage to the relationship and respect for the culture than good, and I think taking those requirements out of the law so that schools can choose to teach Mataranga Māori, Tikanga Māori, Te Reo Māori if their community wants it, but not engineering it on the whole country is a massive step forward.
How are you to determine though what is the right amount of reo or the right amount of karakia to be used in schools?
Well, the whole point is that it's up to the boards. We're not requiring them to teach in a certain way. So I'm actually saying let's end the culture war, get the decision making away from politicians, put it back with school boards and communities as has always been the intention. And there'll be some people who want bilingual, that's fine. There'll be some people who want full Māori immersion, good for them. But there's also people that want different choices and they equally should be able to choose what they want.
Could you argue though that the same argument goes the other way though, that this is culture wars in a sense, and that why not leave the obligations for the treaty for a Crown entity that is a school or that is a school board?
Well, the culture war was forcing people to do things they might not otherwise choose. What we're doing is calling taiho on that, calling peace on it, and saying it's up to each community to choose how it wants to bring up its children based on parental demand, rather than using politics to push a certain approach on the parents when they may not actually want it, and many of them don't. They're actually quite tired of it.
You mentioned the harm being done. What harm are you talking about?
Well, it's very simple. Nobody wants to have to do things that are not in their interest for someone else's political purposes. If you believe that it's okay to force your views on other people, make people live the way you want them to live rather than the way they want to live, then you are doing harm, whether you recognise it or not.
Is it not politics taking it out though?
No, it's taking it out leaves the choice, and that's the difference. Any school can still do as much te reo, tikanga, and Mataranga Māori as it wants, but they don't have to. Previously, everyone was forced down the same track.
Yeah, sorry, just to clarify, having the treaty obligations clause in there, that didn't mandate how much schools had to include, right? It gave them, they still had choice, school boards and communities.
Well, no, the wording was very clear. It required that in their policies, programs and curricula, they would incorporate Mataranga Māori, Te Reo Māori and Tikanga Māori. Now, of course, once you put that in there, there's going to be a certain amount that you can't avoid doing, otherwise people would say you're not taking the law seriously. You take the law out, people can still make the choice, there's no compulsion.
Right, so under this change, schools could choose to do none.
Well, if it's not important to you, you shouldn't have to. I mean, the idea that people should be compelled to think in a certain way for their own good, that's one of the things we're trying to stop in a free society.
And is that appropriate, given that, like Marnie was saying, that schools are Crown entities and that there is a Crown Māori?
No, I'm sorry. Schools are there to serve the students. They're not there to serve your or anyone else's political purposes. So you might have a view that we should all think a certain way, but actually schools are run by communities. If the parents and the community don't want it, they shouldn't be forced to do it for someone else's purpose.
What
Very
about
simple.
prayers and stuff? Will you stop schools from forcing prayers onto people?
Well, New Zealand has a long history of allowing religious independence and tolerance. So, for example, if you're at a school that has religious lessons, you're allowed to opt out of that, and I believe that should always be the case. I wouldn't support a school, a state school at least, that compelled students to pray in any language. New Zealand's history of this goes back to the 1870s.
Do you think there are deserved questions to be asked around the Andrew Bailey resignation matter?
Look, I don't think about that at all. I've known Andrew for a long time. We came into Parliament together in 2014, but just watching from a fair distance, I don't understand what he's up to right now.
So you don't think that there's any real reason why he should be feeling as though he needs to clear his name?
Well, I don't know exactly how he feels. I haven't actually discussed it with him, and I haven't been involved in the situation, so you can ask me what I think, but the truth is I don't really have much to think on that.
If he's saying that that there wasn't a proper investigation into what happened and there wasn't an actual complaint and that he was misled, do you think that his complaints have value?
Well, I think the National Party should work that out. I mean, they run their show, we run ours, and I generally don't get involved in others' kupapa or kaupapa.
Is it useful for the charter school movement to have Bangers Education Trust try to take over a school against the wishes of the principal?
Well, people are allowed to have a discussion about converting a charter school, and sometimes it might be that the community does back the conversion over the existing principal. It seems in this case there's a lot of feedback in all directions. The government is not endorsing a conversion here. It'll be listening very carefully to what the community is saying before it goes any further.
And what exactly is the process for ascertaining whether a community wants to turn into a charter school?
Well, in order to make an application, they'd have to demonstrate that there is community support. The authorisation board, which is arm's length from me, would then go and talk to more people to verify the claims that were made, if there were any, and then if they didn't have community support, no go. If they do, and they have a good educational prospect, maybe.
Have you had any feedback from the Kelston Boys School that's at the centre of this about any disruption to have you had any
Yeah.
have you had any feedback or any dialogue with the principal?
No, I haven't been in touch with Kelston. No, it's possible that it's possible. Well, I'm not involved in any of the authorisation board or the charter school agency's decision making, so I wouldn't even know exactly which schools are applying right now. I only find out at the end of the process, and that's deliberate. But obviously, in this case, they will be listening very carefully to what the community is saying. There's clearly some strongly held views, and that's okay. People are allowed to have strongly held views, disagree, and as long as we have a process that gets everyone to the same place in the end.
On the treaty obligations clauses, obligations on schools, question: why was this why is this being done now through this amendment rather than as part of that broader treaty principles review process?
That's ultimately a decision for Erica Stanford. She's the minister and shepherding the legislation through. There was a suggestion back in July that the wider treaty principles review would do it. Erica's chosen to do it now, and I fully support that. I think it's one of the best things that we can do, along with getting academic achievement to be the paramount goal of schools and putting attendance in there. The transformation is from culture wars and identity politics to getting kids to school and excelling academically. That is a massive shift for New Zealand and a massive investment in our future.
And you've obviously spoken about the feedback or the comments that you've had from parents who aren't happy with the amount of te reo and mātauranga Māori and things that are taught in schools. Have you, what kind of consultation, if you know, has been done around this change across the board, or have you kind of relied on the feedback that has come to you?
Well, I as a politician listen to New Zealanders. That's my job. In terms of consultation, it's pretty simple. Nothing's been taken away from anybody. You can still do whatever you like. You're just not compelled to do certain things, and that's a big improvement. In a free society, all New Zealanders should be able to self-determine.
No, I understand kind of the outcome or the intended outcome, but in terms of the actual process of getting here and making this decision, because obviously the work that Paul Goldsmith is doing on the treaty clause review, there's heavy consultation work that's being carried out by different agencies.
I understand what you're saying, but for me it's pretty clear. You don't have to consult people if you're increasing their freedom. If you ask people, would you like more choices and to be able to live how you live, we just take it as a given that that's what people want. If you're going to put new restrictions on how people live their lives or how they use and exchange their property, then you should be consulting to ask whether or not these new restrictions are justified. You see, freedom is actually the starting point. We don't assume that everyone's compelled to live in a certain way, and if we want to make them freer, we've got to ask permission.
So that will be your stance for all legislation?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's only if there's a restriction on the freedom you don't consult to figure out and potentially...
Yeah, New Zealand is not a giant school camp, right? Like, we're actually a nation of adults who have limited time on earth and the right to make the most of it so long as it's not harming anyone else. It's when the government comes along and tries to restrict your freedom, that's when things like the Regulatory Standards Bill are required.
So you don't think a select committee process is a need when there's legislative change that gives people, in your words, more freedom?
Well, it's not in my words, it's just, is the government putting in place laws that restrict what you can do? Because remember, the law in a free society says you can do anything you like unless explicitly restricted, not the other way around. That's how they do it in, say, communist China. In my view, it's critical that we start with freedom as the assumption. If you want to restrict that, that's when you've got to consult and justify.
Hey, what did you mean by calling Te Pāti Māori kupapa this morning?
Well, kupapa is an old word for traitors and people that you can't quite trust. Kaupapa is what a political party should have, a policy program and an agenda to make the world a better place. Just seems to me Te Pāti Māori right now have a lot more kupapa than kaupapa.
Do you think that they're traitors to Māori?
Certainly traitors to each other, and they're all saying that themselves. Don't need me involved. Thank you, guys. See you later.